Hello, welcome to Living in the Good Space, a video podcast. I am your host and producer, Annette Johnson, the Fly Coach. I'm super excited about the podcast that I'm hosting today. And forgive me in advance because I'm probably going to say that about every podcast. I absolutely love having these conversations with my special guests. And today is another one of those special guests. The work that she is doing, I think, is so critical and impactful to my vision for living in the good space. So I want to jump right into this conversation. Let me tell you a little bit about Debby Magnuson. She is an executive coach, a career counselor, and leadership development consultant with more than 20 years experience working with individuals and teams to accelerate development to achieve career and life goals. Her coaching focus area includes helping people make successful transitions to new roles, leadership skill development, midlife career strategy, and relationship effectiveness. She also works with people to help them with public speaking and executive presence. Debby recently became a certified breath instructor with an organization called Breath Logic, which is one of the reasons I invited her on today. And she currently works with individuals and groups to help them reduce stress, improve lung health, and increase capacity for clearer and more focused thinking. I had the honor of being invited to join a mastermind group where I met Debby and got to see firsthand the work that she's doing with this organization, Breath Logic. So please help me welcome Debby Magnuson to Living in the Good Space.
All right.
Debby,
Hey,
hi. How
Hi.
are you?
I'm great, thanks. It's good to be with you today.
It's good to have you. You know that I am a big fan of the work that you're doing with Breath Logic. But before we get into that, tell us a little bit about who Debby Magnuson is.
Okay, well, geez, I think I have to start with family. I always start with family. So I grew up on a dairy farm in Northwest Illinois and the youngest of 6 kids. And we didn't have much money. My parents were both kids of the Depression and they were extremely frugal. And so we all worked on the farm. And I got to say, we didn't have much money, but we had a lot of brothers and sisters and fun. And we had, I just had a great upbringing, and I'll be forever grateful. Both my parents have passed on, but I'm so grateful for my family, and that includes my family now. I am married, and I have 2 adult daughters, and it's the most important part of my life. I worked for over 20 years in corporate America, and then made a midlife career shift into leadership development and executive coaching. And I worked for a global company that we did leadership development work with teams, executive teams all over the world. And then I transitioned into career coaching and worked for an organization based in the Twin Cities. So, it's been a great life. And I am right now in what I call my Act 3. And so I am officially retired from corporate life and have embarked on this next phase of my life. And that's where Breath Logic comes in, along with other volunteer activities that I do, as well as I still do executive coaching too for money. It's still an important part.
Money helps, right?
Yeah.
But I'm sure you do it. I'm sure you do it for passion as well, not just
absolutely, absolutely. I feel very, very lucky every day. So yeah, so that's me.
So, what's one of your fondest memories about working on the farm?
Oh my. Absolutely being with my brothers and sisters. I mean, there were 6 kids, 8 years and 8.5 years apart. So, I mean, we were very, very close in age, and we were kind of a pack. And I just have to say, there's something about, I remember so vividly summer times lying in a field with the heat coming down. I mean, and just the garden, my mother was a huge gardener. And she always said, especially as we were teenagers, she would say, before you go, you must weed a row. And And so she was really big on chores and didn't kill me. and,
Right.
and I became a mom who was big on chores with my daughters too. So there you go.
Well, isn't that interesting how we bring our moms with us into
Oh,
our
absolutely.
roles as moms? And the things that I swore I would never do, I find myself doing. It's just really funny how that happens. And it's not on purpose.
Absolutely. And it's that firm foundation. I mean, my mother was a farm wife all her 91 years, and so she never strayed far uh, from her farm home
Mhm.
in Northwest Illinois. And my life has been so different than that. I've traveled the globe. I worked. I left my kids, and went and worked and traveled quite a bit. So my life was very, very different than hers. But when it comes to the foundation, the values,
Yeah,
and the traditions that I so value today,
yeah,
that's all from childhood. So it's all
yeah.
good.
It's all good.
And it's absolutely part of my living in the good space too. So I want
Oh,
to really acknowledge that.
yeah. And I think about that a lot when people ask me, so what is this podcast all about? Like, what inspired you to do it? And, when we were going through the early days of the pandemic, there was a lot of reflection time, right? And a lot of figuring out, well, what's happening exactly? And what do I need to do differently? Do I need to make changes in my life? There was a lot of that kind of internal um, conversation going on. And I just thought, there's so much negativity. Of course, I was glued to the television, right? And I was watching every talk show, every newsreel. And I just thought, this is a time where we need hope and
Yeah.
positivity. And we need to, from my perspective, we need to think about how do we effectively navigate these crazy spaces like this? And what do we need to help us navigate these spaces? And so when I met you through the mastermind and you started sharing about breath logic and you would take us through these breathing exercises, I thought, oh my goodness,
Yeah.
this, I mean, the benefits of learning how to use a natural resource such as breathing in almost every aspect of your life is really powerful. And so I really want to spend this time talking about. I know you've done a lot of great work in your role as coaching, and you're still doing great work. But this life changing work, this life saving work that you're doing
Okay.
with Breath Logic, I'm fascinated by it. So tell us
Great.
a little bit about the mission and the vision of this organization that you work with.
Yeah. So, and I'll start sharing the website from the beginning so people can check it out if they like. It's breathlogic.org, breathlogic.org. And it is the vision of two amazing founders, Lori Ellis Young and Nancy Chakring. And Lori is just an absolute master in both yoga, meditation, mindfulness, stress-based stress reduction, and she is developing new aspects of the breath. The foundation of Breath Logic is about breath literacy.
Mm,
And that is acknowledging that, yes, breathing is a natural function, but not all of us breathe in a way that's the most useful and healthful for our bodies and our brains.
mhm.
So, breath literacy means becoming aware and becoming intentional about making the most of this incredible natural resource, which is our
Right,
breath.
right. So how
Yeah.
did you get involved in this work?
Ah, that is so funny. And it has to do with one of my life attitudes, I guess, and one of my life values, which is saying yes.
I
I
love that.
was,
Life attitudes. That's a hashtag. Life attitudes. I got to
oh, you
remember
got it,
that.
baby. Absolutely, absolutely. And ultimately it is attached. I love Tiffany B's podcast with you when you did that because she was all about intention. And
Yes.
as I listened to that fabulous podcast, I was going, yes, yes, Tiffany, yes. Oh, Annette, and so because I absolutely share that perspective, and for me, being intentional about your life is about making intentional choices,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so, so as that relates to this breath work, I was invited at the end of 2019, I was invited to a holiday party to be part of a party with people I'd never met.
Mhm.
It was a connection through a connection, and they said, come to this party, whatever. And it ended up being a celebration of Breath Logic, this
Mm.
organization, which I had never heard of in my life. Well, to make the story short here, I ended up a month later in January of 2020, I ended up in Guatemala at a certification program to
Wow.
become an instructor for Breath Logic
Wow.
and Breathe the Change, which is another part of the organization, is called Breathe the Change.
Mhm.
And so I became an instructor, and it changed my life because I, for the very first time in my life, became aware of the power of breath and the difference that it can make in
That
our
is
lives.
so amazing. And you know, I don't believe in coincidence, right? I believe that all things kind of work together for a bigger good. And a lot of times that we can't see, right? It just kind of reveals itself to us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And for me, it connects with my value of, when you think about intention, intention is about what we choose to say yes to and what we choose to say no to.
Hmm.
And I'm very aware that they can be equally important,
Yes.
but there are times, and it's intuition a lot of times, where you are called to say yes.
Hmm.
And that was one of them. And, after being part of this event at the holiday party, to say yes, to be part of because my strongest reaction from being introduced to Breath Logic was, I want to be part of that.
Yes.
I want to be part of that. It was gut, it was intellectual, it was heart, it was everything. And so I chose to say yes, and I was newly retired. And so I had the bandwidth to make it happen. And so I did. And it's awesome.
You know, you said a couple of things, dropped a couple of nuggets, as you always do. It's the whole dynamic of how we interpret yes and no, right?
Absolutely.
Because no has that negative connotation to it, right? If you say no, somehow it's going to hurt someone, it's not going to be good, or we're not going to be viewed, positively, etc. And so for me, living in the good space is reconciling between yes and no, and understanding that they can both be good, both be positive, and they can both be negative, because saying yes can
Absolutely.
sometimes be
Yes.
harmful,
That,
and saying no can sometimes be the best thing that you've ever done for yourself.
right.
So reconciling my feelings, my perspective around the powerful words of yes and no
Absolutely.
has been life-changing for me, because I've
Right.
always said yes. I'm a giver. So people, and then afterwards I say,
Well,
"What
me
did I do
too.
with that?"
And I tell you what, it's cost me a lot in my life,
Yes.
emotionally, spiritually, mostly time, because I am a person who says yes.
Yes.
Sure, I can help you with that.
Yes.
Yes, I'll be glad to do that with you, and on and on. And then you find yourself running on empty.
Yeah.
So I have been able to harness the power of understanding yes. Well, those who know me best would say I'm working on harnessing the power still, right?
It's a work in progress.
Lifelong journey, man, of what we choose to say yes to and what we choose to say no to, and realizing that, to your point, both are good. And saying no isn't necessarily negative.
Yeah.
It very oftentimes saying no is embracing your own personal power.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
But for
So
those of us who are pleasers, anybody
yeah,
in this room a pleaser? Right? Yeah, exactly.
I'm a recovering pleaser, actually.
There you go. Love it. Love it. Love it.
I'm on the road to recovery.
We're on
Um,
the road to recovery.
so tell me, like, what did you learn personally going through this experience, this certification, and helping and being an instructor? What did it teach you about life, about yourself?
Oh my, so many things. I am a very just by nature, I'm a very busy, active person. You know, I'm not hyperactive, but I am an action-oriented person.
Hmm.
And embracing the power of breath has enabled me to slow down, to take time to be more reflective and thoughtful, and to let in emotions, to let in other people's feelings, and just to, I would just say, slow down is
Hmm.
probably the biggest thing.
Hmm.
After, you know, because having had a very, very, very active, busy life for my whole career, you know,
Yeah.
and being a mom and being part, you know, lots of friends and stuff like that, to embrace the ability to slow down and connect to the breath,
You
you
know,
know.
we have very similar backgrounds in that the latter part of my career, probably like the last 7 or maybe 10 years of my career, I found myself in a role where I did a lot of travel. And it's funny because when we're together, when sometimes when I'm talking with my daughters, you know, we laugh about the car showing up in front of the house. You know, it's
Yeah,
like it was a regular routine, sometimes 2, 3 times a week, car showing up to take me to the airport. And you know, it's like, where is Annette in the world today?
that's right.
But it was a time where I did feel like I was always busy, always going. And so when I left my corporate role, I underestimated settling into a new space, one that gave me a lot of time with myself,
Mhm.
and gave me just a new space to operate in where I wasn't obligated to really be anywhere or do anything.
That's right. That's right.
So
It's really different, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's very different, very different.
And
But
what's cool is I call it the good space now.
well,
So there you go. The
voila,
good life.
which is why I'm here and why
There
I'm
you
doing this,
go.
because I truly am living in the good space. And it's just a beautiful, special time in my life where I pay attention to everything. And I want to learn everything, I want to try everything. But there's a technique that you taught us in our mastermind group that I use on a regular basis. And I didn't share that with you, but your BIP, is it BIP bop breathing?
Bip bop. That's right. BIPBOP. It's the bip bop breath. You want me to
Tell us
talk
what
about
that
that?
is. Yes.
Okay. So the bip bop breath is a really powerful tool that one can use when you're feeling sad, depressed, overwhelmed, and pessimistic.
Mm.
So, and this breath is originated by my breathing master, Lori Ellis Young of Breath Logic. And so it's very simple. It's about slowing down, taking a big, should we do it?
Yes, let's do a demo.
Let's just do it. Okay. The Bit Bop breath is breathe in peace, breathe out pain. It's about slowing down and inviting in what you want more of. And we literally use the hand gestures too, to breathe in what you want more of and to breathe out what you want to let go of, right?
Hmm.
So
So you're
let's
breathing in what you want, and you're breathing out what you want to release, what you don't want to let
exactly.
go.
And the physiological act of bringing your hands in and then letting your hands out. You aren't pushing it away, you're letting go,
Do
right?
that
Because
again. Do
pushing,
that again. So I want to be real intentional about this.
okay. All right, so let's breathe in peace on the inhale, because we're inhaling and exhaling through our noses. Most intentional breathing is, and mindful breathing is breathing both in and out through the nose. So we're inhaling to breathe in peace, and we're exhaling to breathe out pain. Let's do
So
it
I
again.
felt that. So it's not a push,
Not a
that
push.
aggressive push. It's just let it flow.
It's a letting go, because a lot of us are holding on to our pain or to our anxiety, our worry, our stress, our anger, and frustration. So the Bit Bop breath is just a really simple technique but you know, all of this is simple, right? Because it's in your breathing and in your brain, but it's about breathing in and breathing out. Should we do a few more?
Yes. And what I want to do is,
Yeah.
so how many times, I want to set this up so that people can really walk
Sure.
away being in a position that they can practice this. Is there a certain number? Like, how many times do you do this? Like, how long do you hold your breath? Or is it just kind of, you just go with the flow?
Oh, that is such a great question. And if Lori Ellis Young were here, she would tell you the breath creates the time. It's what you need. There isn't a count 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
We do that sometimes in just teaching people.
Hmm.
But you know, let the breath lead the body, right? And that, which is another technique of mindful breathing. So we breathe in, and you can close your eyes if you want to. Breathe in peace, breathe out pain. Breathe in peace, breathe out pain. Breathe in calm, breathe out sadness. Breathe in joy, breathe out worry. So you can see the length of time is whatever you need.
Mm.
If your
Hmm.
self is calling you, if you're carrying around a load of crap that you need to get rid of,
Hmm.
the Bitbot breath can be a really simple and empowering. Most important thing in terms of timing is to slow down,
Mm.
right?
So it's not a race.
Mm-mm,
It's really,
not
yes.
at all. And we want to breathe as deeply into our belly. You know, for those that have taken meditation, yoga, you've probably learned about belly breathing. And that's
Hmm.
a whole nother technique that
Right.
we can talk about if you want to. But the idea with breathing is low and slow,
Mm.
like good barbecue. Seriously, you know,
Wow.
it's you want to breathe as low into your belly, you know,
Hmm.
so you bring it in and you go low and you slow down, and you always have excellent posture, Annette. But you want to sit up straight. Slouching doesn't work because you're
Right.
limiting the amount of breath you can bring in. Um, you know, the thing about mindful breathing is that you are bringing fresh oxygen
Mm.
into your brain,
Hmm.
into your extremities, your
Hmm.
fingers, your toes, whatever. And the deeper and slower you breathe, the more you increase lung capacity over time if you really
Mm.
practice breathing. And at Breath Logic, we talk a lot about breath practices
Hmm.
because it's like yoga or meditation, right?
Hmm.
You practice this. It isn't a race, it isn't a competition. It is a daily practice in which you give yourself the freedom to slow down,
Hmm.
you know, and just be in yourself. And you're bringing more oxygen, especially to the brain. This is critical, you
Hmm.
know, because okay, what do you want to talk about next? Because I could go on.
Listen, and
I'll let you.
I'm all taken in, right? Because I just practiced this yesterday. I
Yeah.
had a meeting that I was very anxious about. And
Yes.
I thought I was going through my notes for today, and I thought, wait a minute, let me do this. And so I took a couple of minutes, for me it was, you know, breathing calm and breathe out anxiety because I
Yeah.
felt so anxious about it. And so I did
Good.
that, and I used a couple of different words,
Yeah.
but it really helped me get settled, you know, before I went into that meeting. And this is why I just thought, you know, when I met you and you started sharing about breath logic, I thought, oh my goodness, this is perfect for living in the good space because it's something that you can do in your car before going to a doctor's appointment that you might be
Absolutely.
anxious about, or before that big interview that you have.
No, thank you for saying that point about the doctor's appointment because Breath Logic has worked with medical clinics, and we actually had a pilot study, and that I think they're still doing it at one of our top clinics here in the Twin Cities, where we taught the practitioners, or breath logic instructors taught the practitioners how to use mindful breathing. And they would share those techniques and do some breathing exercises with patients. And they were able to reduce the anxiety, which made for a much more successful appointment.
Now, I was on the BreathLogic website and they talk about work that they're doing with COVID, how they're using the breathing techniques to help
Right.
fight against COVID. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Hugely important, and it's just so striking that during this time of COVID, and it isn't just breath logic, mindful breathing practices are mushrooming all over the internet, and people who are teaching breathing and all these things. And it's because the breath, COVID, unfortunately, is a respiratory disease for the most part, right? And so it's people who are really ill are saying, I can't breathe. And so it behooves all of us, whether we're healthy or have had COVID or whatever, to do mindful breathing practices on a regular basis, because ultimately what you're trying to do is increase lung capacity. That's what we're really doing. That's why we say shoulders up, back, and down, chest out, so that you can breathe more deeply. And the more you do that, you're actually increasing lung capacity, which is what we lose with COVID. So doing that, the other thing that they're doing for COVID is, and you see videos of this on the internet, doctors are having people, like if you've had COVID or you think you have COVID symptoms, to lay on your stomach, lay on your belly with your head extended over the side of the bed and breathe, do breathing exercises from there.
I've seen that.
It's called back breathing. And the back breathing is a very important therapy in helping people deal with COVID or to get past some of those respiratory symptoms that remain, that shortness of breath and all that. The third aspect of breathing, and we have a video on our website that talks about how to breathe through masks. And so all of our videos that are on the website at breathlogic.org are free, and you can tap into them. We have breathing tutorials, and we have a conversation with a physician and Lori Ellis Young talking about COVID and talking about lung capacity and things like that, and things you can do for COVID. But we also have a really cool video with a physical therapist about how to breathe successfully through a mask. So
I have to tell you, so when the pandemic first broke, like everybody, I went out, I bought these masks. And I just found that my breathing was changing. Like I felt like when I would go into a store or anywhere where I had to have my mask on, all of a sudden I felt like my breathing was challenged. And so I invested in
masks. And you know why you felt that way, Annette? Because your breathing was being challenged. You're not making that up. You put you put something over your face and nose. It's harder to breathe, no question.
But what I noticed was I bought masks, these cotton masks that you can wash and reuse, but they lay flat across your face. So what I did was now I have the masks that come to a point. So it gives a little bit, it gives space.
K95, isn't that?
Well, they're not all N95. Some of them just have they don't lay flat on your face. They just, they leave
come out to a point.
They leave a gap between your nose and mouth and the mask.
Well, and the thing we have, because the problem when our breathing feels challenged, like you were describing when you put on a mask, is we go to chest breathing.
Yes.
Right? It's just, this is the physiological part of breathing, that we react in ways that we think we have to. It's a survival thing. And so when our breathing feels threatened, we go, and chest breathing is like the worst thing you can do. It's also what happens when you get really angry, when you get into what we call amygdala hijack, when you start to see red and get super angry, you go, you get really. And so mindful breathing is the process of taking back your breath,
Mm.
of intentionally slowing down and breathing more deeply. And that's the essence of the mask breathing, is that you have to intentionally choose to breathe more slowly so that you can keep a good flow of oxygen.
So what's a good breathing exercise to help build that lung capacity?
Oh, there's a bunch of them. Belly breathing, which is where you puff your stomach out. I don't know that I can really show you that in this
No, but
venue,
I'm
but
just curious, people can
yeah,
go and onto the
but
website.
breathing, yeah, breathing into your belly is probably the most basic. Another important thing is choosing to and practicing to always breathe in and out. Do nostril breathing rather than mouth breathing.
Mm,
For those who have huge sinus problems or a bad cold, sometimes you breathe through your mouth so you can get enough air. But so belly breathing, breathing deeply. The third thing I would say, and this one I can show you, is called alternate nostril breathing.
okay.
It's a way to open up your sinuses. Alternate nostril breathing is incredibly powerful because it clears your sinuses and it helps you breathe better because it's doing
Hmm.
cross-medial brain breathing. So let me show
Okay.
you what I mean. And I'm going to turn just a little bit
Okay.
because alternate nostril breathing, there's different ways to do it, but this is a real basic one where you hold up 2 fingers and then keep the other. You put your 2 fingers in the center of your forehead
Hmm.
like this,
Hmm.
and then you take your thumb and you block, right? So I have my right hand up, so I'm blocking my right nostril,
Hmm.
and you simply breathe in and out slowly. You take at least 4 to 6 deep inhales and exhale through your left nostril. And you can count on your fingers if you want to. There's a whole lot more to this, but you can count through your fingers, whatever. Are you doing it?
Wow. Yes.
Okay, no, let's do the other side because balance is everything, right? So now I lift my left hand,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And I put my 2 fingers
Hmm.
on in the middle of my forehead. And now I block my left nostril and I breathe through my right to a count of 6 inhales and exhales through your left nostril only. If you're a yogi, you might want to use your Ujjayi breath, which is that sounding breath.
Hmm.
For those who are familiar with that, I mean, there's a lot of different parts to this, but just the basic, you know, breathing on both sides and I'm sorry, breathing one at a time and doing
Right.
what we call alternate nostril breathing. How do you feel after you
I
did
feel,
that?
I kid you not, I feel like something opened, something opened up. In the winter when the heat is high in the
Right.
house, I normally have like, you know, these issues.
Sinus yick.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We
And
all
so
do.
I feel like, wow, I'm breathing regularly. Like my nostrils literally opened up.
That's right. Doing alternate nostril breathing as a daily practice can really help your sinuses. It can help to open up. It actually helps you get rid of colds faster. We do know
Wow.
that too. You can use it
Wow.
to limit that. The other very important aspect of alternate nostril breathing is that it clears your head.
Mm.
When you clear your sinuses, it kind of opens up and we have clearer thinking. So it's a very powerful tool. So those 2 or 3 things that we've just talked about, the belly breathing, the deep, low, slow breathing, and the alternate nostril breathing, those are really powerful tools that really do help with COVID symptoms, with,
Hmm.
reducing winter yuck.
Hmm. Yeah. No, these are great. These are great practices, and they're things that you can practice at home.
Absolutely.
It's easy to do. You can do it alone. So
And it's
before,
free, Annette.
and it's
It's
free.
free.
Isn't that the
It's,
most powerful thing? It's like, this is a
yeah,
natural resource, right? We
that's
don't have to
right.
pay anybody for it. It doesn't come in a bottle or a jar. There's no
Yep.
sales hype around it. It's
Yep.
just, we all have it, and we can
Absolutely.
use it in a way that will help us.
And there are so many more. There's a beautiful breath called the heart breath,
Yeah,
where
you
we,
showed us that once. Let's do that one real quick.
oh, okay. So bring your, here, I'm going to lower this just a second so you can see where my hands are. You bring your prayer position with your hands to heart center,
Mhm.
and you breathe in deeply. Exhale. And then on the next inhale, we breathe up, keeping your hands overhead. And then let your arms open up on the exhale. Bring them all the way down. Bring your hands back up on another big inhale to prayer position, and then bring it back to your heart. We have a free tutorial on the Breath Logic website about the heart breath as well as others. The thing about the heart breath, if you're feeling alone, if you're feeling depressed, if you're feeling sad, or maybe your brain is in a spin because you've been watching too dang much TV and your news channels and
Guilty.
no kidding. If the doom scrolling is getting to you, do at least 6 rounds of the heart breath, and at the end of the heart breath, you think about, you're holding your thumbs to your heart, and you think about someone you love, a good friend, a child, a spouse, a colleague, whoever that you want to send love out to from your heart. They say that the breath is the connector between your brain and your heart.
Mm,
Breath connects. And so if you tend to live in your head and you want to live more from your heart,
mhm.
use the breath to focus on, that love that you want to send out to the world. I'm working on a program for Breath Logic right now. It's about bringing more peace
Mm.
into your life, yourself, to your relationships with others, and to the world. And I'm really excited about that. So that's something I'm working on. And it includes all kinds of breath practices.
Well, you have to keep me in tune with the development of that. But these are great, great practices that can help with living in the good space, especially the heart exercise. When you said think about a loved one, a family member, you can also think about, what does living in the good space look like, feel like for
Absolutely.
you, so that you have that thought, that feeling, that image or vision in your mind that can help transport you there. So I always refer to living in a good space as a place that you can retreat to, whether it's mind, body, or soul, to help you recenter and kind of keep focused and moving forward. So thank you
And
so much for sharing.
yeah. And so it is about living intentionally. It's
Hmm.
about breathing intentionally. It is about
Hmm.
loving and being at peace
Hmm.
intentionally,
Hmm.
making those choices that help you live your best life, as
Yes,
Oprah would say, or
yes.
living in the good space, as Annette Johnson would
As
say.
Annette Johnson would say, yes, yes.
Yes, absolutely.
So before we close out, I'm asking all my guests this question. What does living in the good space mean to you?
Wow. The ultimate living in the good space for me is living in full choice, no matter my circumstances, living in full choice so that I can live intentionally and create the life for myself and for those I interact with, and especially for my family. I'm
Mm.
about to become a grandma this year. Did I tell you that?
Yes. I can't wait until my turn comes.
I know. I never thought my turn would come, geez. But yeah, so it's about passing on from where I came from that dairy farm in Illinois, to living where I live now. and being able to continue that foundation of love and gratitude, faith, and appreciation
Mhm.
for what we have.
Yeah,
That's the good space for me.
gratitude has definitely become a big, big factor of living in the good space for me because it's so easy to think about what is not going well and
Yeah,
what disappoints you and what hurts you and your missteps. It takes work to
yes,
really focus on all of your blessings and to be in a place of gratitude, right?
yes.
The other thing is easy. I find for me that just comes. I don't have to exert any effort for that. But that's how I want to feel from a place of gratitude because I have so many blessings. There's so many wonderful things that have happened to me, and I'm so blessed, to be who I am, to be surrounded by the people that I'm surrounded by, from immediate family to extended family to network, just surrounded by greatness and beauty and love and peace. And so I'm like, that's what I want to focus on. I don't want to focus on the other
Well,
stuff.
and it's not about being in denial
Right.
of the hardships and all the
Exactly.
crap that's gone into our world. I think we're living in incredibly challenging times,
Yes.
but it's the good space that I choose for myself and then the work that I'm able to do. It takes courage
Yes.
to live today. It takes courage to stand up and have the strength to do what you need to do to make the
Yes.
world less crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to try to right wrongs, whatever that means for you. It takes strength. And so I find that the breath work that I'm doing adds to my strength and courage enormously.
And thank you for saying that it's not about denial, because I think a lot of times when you talk about mindfulness and positivity and being intentional, it's like, oh, you want to live in utopia. You know what I mean? You don't want to ever have to experience anything negative. And that is not my vision for this because, I said before, 2020 is gone, but the stuff that and the challenges are still lingering and they're going to be lingering for a long time.
That's
And
right. There's big work to do,
there's a
big
lot of
work to
work to
do.
do.
And we have
Exactly.
to be strong enough to face it clear eyed.
Exactly. Exactly. But still enjoy life because you only get one. So you still have to find a way to stay focused on your goals and to enjoy life. Debbie Magnuson, thank you so much for agreeing to be a guest on Living in the Good Space. Thank you for
I
sharing.
enjoyed it. Thank you so
I'm glad
much.
you did. I'm glad
You
you
ask
did.
great questions. You're good at this.
Thank you. And tell us again the website for Breath Logic.
Thank you. Yes, it's breathlogic.org. Breathlogic.org. It's about breath literacy and feeling empowered to live your good space.
So I encourage everyone to go to the website. As Debbie said, you will see tutorials and videos, and you'll get to see all of the great work that they're doing across the world and learn some of these techniques so that you can apply them in your
Yeah.
day-to-day life as you need to. Thank you very much, Debbie Magnuson.
Oh, you're so
And
welcome. I really loved it.
you have an open door to come back and be a guest and share with us the great work that you're doing anytime.
Great. Love it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Annette.